Welcome back to Maximum News. I'm your host, Max Danger Darrett. Go.
I am Saib, and please press F in the comments to pay respect to all my summer plants that died in this heat wave.
Really? Is it that bad? Like, is it
Oh yeah,
still going on?
I have a bunch of blueberry bushes. They're all dead. They're all dead. Interestingly enough, the honeyberry survived though, so that's interesting.
I guess I know what you're growing next year, I suppose.
Yeah, more honeyberries.
Yeah. Like I ever did any gardening in my life. What I am good at, though, is talking about game news and games in general. We got a whole lot of stuff to get through. Let's skip the intros. Let's skip the sponsorships, which we hope to get. If you want to partner with us, just let us know. SteamDeck. This thing dropped on us, I think either yesterday or the day before. So, Valve, the people that are most famous for creating Steam and, sitting on all the money that they make from that and not making stuff like games that end with the number 3. I gotta give them credit, though, when they have been doing stuff in the last few years, when they release a product, be it like a piece of hardware or a game, it is top of the line. So they released the Steam Index VR, which is considered by many to be one of the better, if not the best, VR headset. They also released Half-Life Alyx, which many people consider to be the best VR game ever made, and probably will be for a long time. And now they just released they haven't just released it, but they have announced their newest piece of hardware, and it is the Steam Deck. So, if you haven't been in the know over the last couple of days, you might be asking, what's the Steam Deck? Basically, it's a Nintendo Switch, but for the PC.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? Well, it means that what you can do with a Nintendo Switch, where you can take your console and then, play it portably at will. So you can put it on your TV, or you can just pick it up and then carry it over to your couch or your bed. Well, it seems like Steam is going to allow you to do just that. They have announced the Steam Deck, and what it's going to allow you to do, no joke, is take your entire Steam library and play it on a portable device. That includes like really top of the line games like Red Dead Redemption, Call of Duty, Warzone. I'm not talking about quality, I'm talking about like performance type stuff. Mm-hmm. And play it wherever you want, essentially, as long as you have the space for it. It's quite remarkable, and the only company that I really expect to be able to pull something off like this is Valve. And even though it's probably not something that I would invest in, I could totally see hundreds of thousands of people making great use of this. After all, people love their Switches, people love being able to play portable, and if you can do that with a big fat library of games through Steam, this could really change the game and really, help Valve get a huge share of not just the console market, but just the portable gaming market. Saib, I'm very curious as to what you think about this. Are you the type of person that would invest in something like this? We'll get into the specs in a second, but I'm just curious, like what you think about it all.
It's one of these things where it's like I have a very powerful cell, and I use that for most of my gaming.
Right
now, I do have to do some screen share apps and some other stuff, and I have to do other things, and it's a little technically complicated. Then the controller, this would make my life a little bit easier. It would streamline a lot of stuff and allow me to play a lot of the games on my Steam library that I can't actually are harder to run on my phone. So all I need this thing to do, Gabe, can you please just put a cell phone chip in there, and then I just have to carry around that, and yeah,
and you'd be good to go.
I'd be good to go.
Yeah, it would be everything.
Yeah, and I would be more than happy. Moon and I would be more than happy to switch over to Gabe. What would they call Gabe's mobile network?
Gabe Boy,
Gabe Boy, Air, or Gabe Cell, or what? Take your pick. We'd be more than happy with that. Overall, I know that handhelds are a really big thing in the gaming industry, but I very rarely utilize them. Yeah. So it is one of those things where it's if I have a spare minute, I'm usually writing. I'm not actually gaming. If I'm at home and I'm on my game, I literally have my latest chapter pulled up right in front of me, and I can literally work on that there, but it's tied to my mobile. So when I can actually sit and update on either or, get up, go downstairs, make food, I'm still typing away on that. So again, it's one of these things that it's not necessarily for me, but is very much for the community of gamers. And I'm happy that they're finally doing something to kind of put themselves out even more. Because only having the platform does kind of limit them a little bit. Now, having platform and hardware, it makes them a little bit more of a bigger force in the industry. And I like that. and I want that to stay there, because I don't ever, as much as I rag on PlayStation, I don't ever want there to be like one or two, especially one, but I don't want there to be one or two choices for your hardware and your gaming stuff, and then that's essentially it. I don't want that to ever happen. I was very much against Epic, but I was against Epic because they kept on isolating things, and I don't think gaming should be about isolation. I think it should be about, it's already isolating it as its nature. Yeah. And you should work into ways to like open it up to community. I like the idea of crossplay. I despise people who go out of their way to harm crossplay, like or Sony. To like companies that are like oh well, you'll have to pay to enable crossplay. It's like you might as well be a James Bond villain at that point. Like you're literally like you're 2 steps away. So it's like you're getting pretty close. So yeah, that's kind of my stance on it. I want there to be healthy competition, because healthy and numerous competition is the only way that we progress. When you are the only dog in the room, your food bowl, I don't know where I'm going with this analogy, but let's go with it. If you're the biggest dog in the room and you're the only dog in the room, then it doesn't matter what they do for food, right? Like you're going to get, or you're going to put out only that which you're comfortable with, and you're not going to progress. You're not going to create. You're not going to do anything. You're just going to maintain the status quo. And that kills empires. If you want to know what kills empires the fastest, it's stagnation. It's like that's what causes that. There's lots of other things that kill empires, but stagnation is one of them. And stagnation festers when you're the only dog in the room. When you're the only thing that has to worry about you have no competition. And you're like, well, we could design a better phone, or we could just continue to print and sell the ones that we've been making forever. I mean, there's no risk involved with that. So yeah, it's a good thing. And I'm very happy that Gabe is doing this now, and I hope that they have great success, and I hope that they don't focus on this overly. I want them to continue to focus on other areas
like games
and games and continuing to push the VR stuff. I'm really, 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 really excited for the work that Gabe has talked about frequently about deep dive or full dive tech, or tech that borders along that line, like pure mental control over a UI, that kind of stuff. I cannot wait to see that stuff. I cannot wait to get that stuff. I think that is the pinnacle of technology. Like that's the keystone for pinnacle technology. It's not the pinnacle technology. It's a keystone for entering that pinnacle level of technology.
Yeah. Once we reach that, then a whole bunch of other stuff is going to
follow. As soon as you can full dive yourself, you're only a few steps away from like transference or containment or containment storage transference. Like there's a whole bunch of things that opens up, and a lot of them are frightful, but so are cars, right? And we've managed to progress that technology pretty decently. Yeah. So
hopefully within the next 20 years we'll actually finally get flying cars.
I don't think we'll ever get flying cars. The reason why we've never had flying cars is
because people are stupid.
Well, people are stupid. It's also like it's hard to crash into somebody's house in a car. Like it's doable, but it's oftentimes there's like things in the way. You have to get through a fence. Sometimes the traction isn't great on the dirt going up to the, there's all kinds of that stuff, right?
Right.
Crashing into a house is really easy when you're flying.
Yep.
Like it's really, really easy. And then also you have a lot of fuel in the vehicle, and so it's one of those things where it's like I'm more excited for hover vehicles that don't have I don't know, it's kind of one of those things where it's like I love the idea of them not having friction on the roads, but then you do come up with a bit of an issue when it comes with like, well, how do you stop, right? Like that kind of stuff. So there's our tech talk for the day.
Yeah, I would trust though Valve if they wanted to go about making hover cars or flying cars, because usually when they do something, it is top of the line and it is well respected by everybody, not just within the games industry, but just the tech industry in general. And what we got here with this new system, I'm like looking at the specs, you got 720p 60 fps output, which is sort of the standard for like Nintendo Switch. You got CPU and GPU, which are somewhat between that of a PS4 and a PS4 Pro, which is pretty good considering that it's a handheld. There is still some way for it to go, and I imagine there will be more models of this if this does as well. Hopefully at some point I'll get up to something like 1080p, because the idea of just being able to bring Red Dead Redemption 2 wherever you go at 1080p, 60 FPS sounds like a young boy's dream come true. So we're getting there.
And oh man, I forgot to point this out earlier. Oh man, if they come in and this is a huge flying success that sells like 500 million units in the next few years, won't Sony have egg on their face?
Oh yes. And then we can all go back to praising Gabe Newell and stop making jokes about the number 3 whenever his name is brought up again. And I really hope that happens. Like you said, Saib, competition is great. We need more competitors within the gaming scene. And if any company is going to do that and do that well and do it with the support of the wider gaming community, it's Valve, right?
Well, think about this. What would the okay, I have to be careful what I say.
It's okay, I can edit it out if you say something.
It's imagine, if you would, a company has made a interesting story, a missing trilogy, if you would, about a alien invasion and the resistance that rises up and fights against it and all that good stuff. But they never really got that final chapter out that tells of that story of humanity as a whole rising up, fight against the alien overlords, and to take their step not only on their own, take their place not only on their own planet but their own galaxy. And it's very interesting. Now, if you were telling a story that was heavily required on the new levels of technology, and then you got some technology in the form of a VR device, a handheld device, and of course your software, would that be the right time to introduce the new story featuring something that not just a handful of, like, not just you as the player, taking part in that story, but everybody taking part in that story, all of your friends in not an MMO world like we've seen in a couple of the MMOs that people play now, not like that, but in an augmented world of our own. So that would be that level of technology. And if that had been their plan for quite a while, this would be a major required step to moving in that direction. But of course, that's just random speculation.
Hey.
Or is it?
Nice. Okay. Thank you for that, Saib. Let's move on to the next story. Final Fantasy. I've actually been getting into the Final Fantasy games for the first time recently. I finished Final Fantasy X. I haven't finished X2, even though I want to. It's just a matter of finding time to do it. I'm very close to the end of Final Fantasy IX, and I'm also simultaneously going through Final Fantasy VII with my girlfriend. Saib, have you played any of those games?
I played... Oh dear, I have to look this up.
Yeah.
I played only one... So I played 10, I think it was. That's with the girls, right? Or is that X or X2?
With the girls, can you be a little bit more specific?
Well, the girls are like the main characters. It's like there's the 3 characters. You got Pain. You got
right. Yeah. You got what's her name? The summoner from the first one. You got Riku. You got Yuna, and whoever the other chick is, Lulu, I think. Yeah, that's X2.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I didn't ever finish that one. I enjoyed it a lot, but I didn't have I could only play it whilst borrowing the thing that it was on. So yeah, it was it was good. It was interesting. I liked it. I think I played, oh gosh, I want to say, this is the one I'm trying to find because I always forget which one it is.
Right.
Is it 3? Is it 4? Is it 5? Is it 6? I can never, ever remember, and it's so frustrating.
There's just too damn many.
Yeah, it's the one where the girl is like a star or alien or something. And you got, actually, I think it is 6. I think it's 6. Yeah, Terra is 6. Okay, so 6 I played through all the way through. And I did that a very long time ago. I played on that on the original system, basically. And I loved it. It was great. I really enjoyed it. It introduced the one of my favorite genres, the haunted train or the haunted boat. I love those. I love those in games. I love looking around there and doing stuff. I love that in was it Trials of Mana? The recent Mana series that just came out. I love that stuff. It's great. And I really loved 6. 6 was like the one of the best stories I ever played. And it's really great. I hated the ending though. I really hated the ending. I'm not gonna spoil it for anybody, but man, did I hate the ending. I really really despised it, and that turned me off of finishing like future games, because I'm like, it's a great story, well written, I can't stand the ending, and that kind of stuck with me, so I've avoided it, ever since, basically.
That's too
um
bad.
yeah, and then other ones, it's like I have to have a character I can click with. If I can't click with the character, there's no point in me playing it,
Yeah.
because I'm just gonna get extremely bored. It's the same thing with a lot of like class based games. I have to have a class that I click with, that I really click with, and if I click with it, then I pour everything into it, and I absolutely love it, and I'm very, very, very good at it. So yeah, it's one of those. So like I haven't, any of the recent releases, not interested at all.
Hmm.
Like, I think they're great games, but I can't get into them because I can't click with that character, that main character.
Well, if you're looking for a Final Fantasy character to click with, I'd be really surprised if you didn't like the character of Vivi from Final Fantasy IX. He's just so lovable and so relatable as somebody, who struggles with ideas surrounding existentialism, which you and anybody else who knows me knows quite well if you've watched my videos. Anyways, I brought up Final Fantasy because apparently like we just said, Final Fantasy X or X, it's the first game in the series to ever get a sequel to a mainline entry. So there's X and X2. I haven't played X2, although I really want to because I enjoyed the hell out of X. But people, apparently, the way that Final Fantasy X2 was left, there was more room for story to be told there, more adventures that could occur in the world of Spira. And it seems that there is some sort of plot synopsis that has been provided by one of the original writers for Final Fantasy X. This article, I'm just reading it from IGN. Apparently, in an interview with one of the longtime art directors for Final Fantasy, a guy named Tetsuya Nomura, as well as the director of Final Fantasy X, Motomu Toriyama, they said in a Japanese gaming magazine called Famitsu that if they were going to make a X3, they do have a synopsis that was written by the former Final Fantasy X writer Kazushige Nojima. Now, as for whether or not this would ever get made, in that same interview, they said, well, if we ever do approach it, it's going to be long after we're done going through the Final Fantasy VII remake entries. So, based on apparently how much of the original Final Fantasy VII that the remake covered, I'm expecting at least 2, maybe 3 more games. And then after that, there'll probably be more just mainline Final Fantasy entries. And then they might do a Final Fantasy X-3. I'm particularly excited about that because, as I just said before, I love Final Fantasy X. I was amazed at how much I loved it because I've always had this weird long-held prejudice against turn-based games. But it was amazing. I love the lore of that game, and I would absolutely love to be able to explore more of that world and to have some of the original creators involved. Now, Sai, based on what you played of X2 and what you remember it, would you be interested in going back to that world?
Oh yeah.
Interested?
Okay. No. It's one of those ones where it's like I always wanted to go back and play it and have the time to completely finish it out. But it's one of those things where I just never got the time or the. And again, this is where because it was console specific back when it came out, I couldn't get my hand on it. I didn't have the money. I didn't have the the resources. I didn't have and then when I finally did, I didn't have the time and haven't for a very long time.
Those
so
games
it's
are so damn long, man.
Yeah, because it is so dang long, and I'm the type who wants to like I would want to find the best class for each character. I would want to maximize it. Then I would want to collect literally everything in the entirety of the game that it has to offer me. I would literally collect everything. I would want to 100% it, and that's why I'm a little scared. I'm a little bitty scared of it because it's like if I get into this game, there's chances are I might be gone for a couple months, possibly a year or two. It's that's legitimately scary.
Have you ever played Persona?
No, that's another one that I've heavily avoided because of the time requirements.
Good,
that it has.
Do it.
and again, it's Persona. It's still a set character protagonist. It's like a single, like you can't change the main character, right?
It's sort of like a
Yeah.
personal avatar though.
Yeah, but it's like the same guy though. Like you can't change it up or like switch it out or anything like that, right?
Right, but like he doesn't speak here. He's just sort of
Yeah,
there.
yeah. No, I can't stand those games. It's like I want to make my own persona.
Right, right.
I do not want to play the persona, I especially do not want to play the persona that is the most common persona, which is the it's the anime or manga like main character persona. It's like it's a guy, he's like kind of normal, he's not the tallest in the class, he's not the shortest in the class. He's not overly good at anything in particular in the class, and that he's just kind of blasé. His character is really blasé, so that you can inject yourself into that character.
Yeah.
And I understand why it's there, because it's there to allow you to transfer a bit of yourself and a bit of the way that you think into that character. And I've explored that kind of concept in my main character that I'm writing for my book series. As much as I hate playing that, I think it's one of the most brilliant writing styles that you can do, which is why I dislike playing that character, but I don't mind creating that character as far as like a written story. But it takes but I do a big heavy twist on mine very, very early on. It's like chapter 3 and it does that twist. But one of the things, and that may or may not make it to the final edit, but what I've enjoyed seeing the test readers inject themselves into that story, and that's what I think the Persona and the Final Fantasy games kind of excel at, is they do allow you to inject yourself into the story. And I think that's really cool. And I think that's the best thing about the Final Fantasy series, is that you do have these characters that allow you to inject yourself into them. Now, the downside of that for me is that I don't click with every game. I only click with a handful of those of the series, because I have to have a character that I can click with. I have to have a character that I can see eye to eye with, that I can put myself into, and that I can see the world through their view. And if I don't click with that person, then I can't play that story, because I have no divested interest in it. But at the same time, as a story writing tool, it is a very brilliant thing to do, because it allows you to get into the world faster, and that is a good thing. And it's one of the reasons why there's been so much success with books and characters that do kind of favor that introing character, where they seem a little bland, they seem a little normal, they're not on any like spectrum end of anything. They're kind of just middle of the road, so that allows the most people to find a way to put themselves into that character and then explore that world around it. So brilliant story writing, but in just the way that I play games, I need to make my own character. And so there's a handful of games that do that really, really well, but few of those have been Final Fantasy games. It's kind of an interesting thing, because the MMO has been really picking up traction over the last like 2-3 weeks. It is exploded. Did you know they ran out of keys for Final Fantasy Online for the MMO? They actually ran out of digital keys because there were so many people flocking to the game, so in such high mass numbers.
Why? Like, is there something?
There's a whole bunch of stuff going on about that in particular. We don't have time to get into it, but it's let us know in the comments if you want us to dive into that story, if you're familiar with it, or if you're not familiar with it. Let us know in the comments. I'd love to see kind of where everybody's at with that, because it's quite a big story, and it's evolving right now very rapidly too. So it's very interesting, and I would love to see how much everybody kind of clicks with this. So
yeah, please guys, like, let me know what's going on in the comment section so I can learn about it later. I won't have time to talk to Saib after we're done, because I got to meet up with the lady, but I'm intrigued. Saib, unfortunately, you told me about this when I was on the way home. I went to go see my first movie in a theater for the first time in a year and a half. Went to go see Black Widow today. Really good movie. I highly recommend you guys go check it out if you can go to the theater and do it safely. But when I was getting in the car and I checked my messages, I noticed you said, hey, let's talk about this thing regarding World of Warcraft. And I didn't have the time to read about it, because I came home, made dinner, and basically just sat up so we can record. So could you please just go into detail about what I missed over the last 24 hours or however long this has been going on?
So yeah, this is part of the story. It's only this is a smaller fraction of what's going on here. And it's not necessarily about WoW, it's mostly about Blizzard, and how they're evolving as a company, and how they evolved as a company over the last few years, especially when they got bought out by Activision. The thing that kind of set this off is this whole like Final Fantasy Online slash a couple of very, very big streamers on the Twitch, in the Twitch sphere. And then the lead team, the team lead. Sorry, I messed that up. The team lead for World of Warcraft Vanilla, which was Grums. That's what he goes on by Twitter. He was the lead guy behind the game. As far as like the like actively putting the stuff in. He didn't write everything, he didn't create everything, but he's one of the primary leads behind it. Now, recently a story or a post went up on 4chan, I think it was 4chan, talking about how WoW is in huge immense trouble right now. There's all this chaos behind the scene. They really dropped the ball on a lot of stuff. So Drums comes in and he posted a very, very long tweet thread about what happened to Blizzard. Now, he starts with saying, supposedly this Blizzard leak is about the current state of WoW. It may or may not be legit, but the attitude described about monetization and how devs view gamers and the hate of streamers is true in the overall AAA industry. So, he asked, how did we get here? A couple things happened in the AAA development that led up to this point. The biggest thing is the money. Once AAA gaming got bigger and than all media, you start to attract a lot of executives who are in it for the immense amount of profit versus the love of making the game. This change starts at the top and is made worse by the gaming companies going public. And so then he goes into kind of describe how this went on, at Blizzard. It's a pretty long thread. It's a lot of posting, but the why of a company changing, instead of going for games that they would love to play and identifying as gamers themselves, they become this sense of other. It's us. We made the games, and they, the gamers, pay for them. And it's a very much a separation. You think any of these big, gaming CEOs, you think any of them actually know the lore about the games that they make? You think any of them actually understand the depth of the especially in the MMO sphere or any kind of like class-based game where you have multiple classes? Mass Effect is a good example of that. You think any of them actually like play those characters and know how that goes and know what they do? Well, maybe they don't have time for it, or maybe they have absolutely no interest in playing games because they're more interested in the profit.
Yeah.
OG, so old game Blizzard culture used to be, we are gamers right down to the receptionist, and we make the game for ourselves because we are gamers. That was what they once were. That is gone now. The devs at any AAA studios are now distinctly us versus them. The enlightened game developers and social media icons versus the whiny entitled gamers. This right here is hitting it absolutely on the head. There are so many devs that look at the average gamer and go, aren't they disgusting? Ugh, I hate them so much. I can't tell you how many times I've heard an actual dev talking about the gamers that play the game, and they go, well, the gamers don't know what they want. They're stupid people. I mean, you think, why would I take any kind of credence from them when they're just all living at home in their mama's basement? It's like, it's the worst tropes imaginable when talking about the people who pay their bills. Not every single gamer lives in his mama's basement. I mean, talk about that being a sexist and hypocritical view of gamers just in general.
Yep.
It's like 2/3 of Americans play video games. I'm pretty sure that includes a lot of people who are not just male. And this arrogant attitude of so many game developers, and a lot of them working at, and again, I'm not just pointing at Blizzard here. And I'm not just talking about Blizzard. There's a lot of game developing companies that come with this attitude. And some of the worst stuff I've heard hasn't been Blizzard. Some of the worst stuff I've heard has come from one company in particular that everybody raves about. Oh my, they're so brilliant. Oh, it's so good. Oh, and they keep adding microtransactions into their games, but it's just so good. These people I mean, some stories have come out that have been, identified as true about them just being just sleazy, disgusting people. We're talking like the heads of the company, like just really disgusting people. And this is the hill that a lot of gaming companies have been built on now. And so there is a lot of these problems. There is a lot of this us versus them. And Blizzard isn't the only company that has issues with when a certain month rolls around, they put up new banners on their Twitter icons and go, oh, look at how beautiful and how wonderful we are. Oh, hey, I popped over to a couple of your accounts over in these other countries that don't really appreciate that. And they're not doing that. They're not talking about any of the things. In fact, there's even times where like they don't even executive head of company A, right? So company A, again, because I'm not pointing out any particular company. There's lots of companies that do this. Company A puts up a new profile on their main Twitter account and says, oh, guys, look at us. Aren't we awesome because we care about this social issue? And then you're like, hey, I just came from, Saturn Town, and Saturn Town, they really don't like this because they're kind of like, well, let's face it, they're kind of, what's the word? Bigoted. They're a little bit bigoted over there. And I noticed that you don't have this up over there. In fact, I noticed that you didn't even retweet any of the stuff that you've been retweeting. You know how your main company puts out a notice or a statement, and then all of your subsidiary companies in all of these countries and towns and stuff, they all retweet that. Well, except for recently, this whole month, this one, Saturn Town over here, Saturn hasn't retweeted any of your stuff. Why is that? Oh, is that because you're just playing the money angle with people? You're just like, hey, buy this so that it supports this cause. We don't know how it supports the cause, but it supports the cause. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Our wallets, And then, but that's why you're not saying anything over in Saturn Town, because in Saturn Town they don't like that kind of thing, and you're just really quiet on that, And you change the lore for that. You tell us how this character is this way or that character is that way, and then when you go over to that town, there's no mention of that at all. And the worst of it is you had a tournament over there, and you actually blacklisted all of the characters that were of this particular type because you didn't want to offend the delicate sensibilities of the bigots over in Saturn Town. If there literally is a Saturn Town, I am so sorry. I chose something like as far out as Saturn so that I could have a name that not necessarily corresponded with reality. But if there is an actual town called Saturn somewhere in the world, I am so sorry. I am not referring to you. I am referring to other things that get us banned on YouTube when we talk about it.
You know what would have been more appropriate to describe the absolute terrible nature of such a town?
What?
Uranus Town.
Well, no, because I maybe, but I don't know. Anyways, this is the problem. And again, I've talked about this numerous times, and Grums does in this long post tweet thread where he talks about the Steve Jobs being right. It's like when you let those kinds of people drive your company and make the big decisions at your company, you're inviting that kind of mentality, their mentality, to become the main drive of your company.
Yeah.
And so this is what happened here. This post, very long, and it very, 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 very long. There's a lot of them, and it's really bad. He hits everything spot on, but this is the expression of why he left, of why so many other people left. Why do these game developers trash these streamers when a good portion of what they're doing on the stream is fluffed up for entertainment, and yet these people take it personally. But yet these same people are standing on the shoulders of giants, that created the thing that they now derive their entire paycheck from. But any one of them are considered toxic or evil or bad. And again, it's like, well, why? Do you have an actual legitimate reason for that, or are you just saying that because that is there's this clever little thing that is 100% true, And that's, if you think you're the good person, if you think you're enlightened because you wouldn't have done what other people did in the past because it was, from your perspective, it was bad or mean or whatever. If you were back there with your same mentality and you suddenly found it that by speaking out, you were now like, public enemy number one and everybody looked down upon you, the speed at which you would change your beliefs, your stances would be really, really fast. Most people don't stand up to the worst, and there's a lot of people that have the guts to do that, but they are not the average person. And when you see these people go, I would have done better, it's like, no, you wouldn't have. You don't have the strength to speak out and call out the BS that happens within your own little clique. And if you don't do that for that, where you actually have power and the ability to influence things, if you can't call out the shenanigans there, the fact that you call out shenanigans against a government or against an ideology or against a movement that would literally crush you, yeah, I don't think you would. I think you'd be the one, waving your hands going, oh, they're hiding in the closet over here, because it's your own, you're guaranteeing your own safety that way. Hypocrites. I hate hypocrites more than anything. Yeah. And I see them a lot, and I know exactly, it's just bad. It's bad. It's bad. And this post, again, Grums is he's semi-political. And, I think, I don't judge him for his entire personality based off of one opinion that he has about one particular political thing, because there's nobody who agrees. There's an infinite number of differences in humanity, and the closer you examine, the more differences you get. Do you like gravy on your mashed potatoes, or do you go with ketchup, or do you go with vinegar, or do you go with nothing, or do you go with butter? It's at some point, if you're trying to separate the ideas or the thoughts from that kind of stuff, eventually you're going to run into problems. So no, I don't judge him for his political ideas, but at the same time, he really nailed this on the head about where the gaming industry is at, who controls gaming when these corporations get too big, who controls and who makes the decisions for the products that you love, for the stories that are, have meaning to you. And unfortunately, there's a lot of very powerful, money focused people that once they get that power, once they move into these corporations, your favorite thing is basically just a commodity to them, and they couldn't care less about its soul.
Yeah, that's essentially what the case is with two of my most favorite franchises, Silent Hill and Metal Gear Solid. Yeah, I just hope, dude, that ultimately what's going to happen is that the pushback against companies like EA and Activision and Blizzard and Ubisoft and the practices that they're doing with their AAA games, just funneling tons of microtransactions into them, will inevitably backfire in the ways that we are seeing them backfire right now. There's loot box legislation being proposed all over the world in regards to, EA games in particular. We're seeing this pushback against Blizzard and their business practices. And as we've talked about in the past, you can only milk that 5% of your game base, that you're depending on for your current business model until they move on to games that have better business models and, are made by more ethical developers. And then those developers, the EAs and Konamis of the world, ultimately fall into the dust. It's a matter of time as to when that sort of thing is going to happen. It can't come soon enough, though, because I want a games industry that goes back to not necessarily focusing on whether something is has the highest budget or whatever, but just as long as the games are good. And to address one thing that you're saying before, some of the game developers and publishers being so out of tune with their audience, it's oh yeah, gamers don't know what they want. Oh, it's very simple what gamers want. Gamers want what any other consumer wants. They want good products. All you guys have to do is make a good game. And then once you make a good game, people will buy it. Now, you want to know what's going to make people angry at you is if you make a good game, kudos to you, but don't compromise the experience by tying it to loads and loads of extra transactions, because all that's going to do is just, destroy your rapport with the fans that you do have over a long period of time. And then before you know it, you might have been one of the most lucrative businesses in the past, but that can change very quickly. And we're seeing that right now with companies like Activision and Blizzard. We're probably going to see it in the next generation with Sony and their decisions. And by God, I can't wait.
But one of the leaving this on a positive note, there is better things coming. And one of the best things that we are starting to see come now, that we're starting to kind of get this hint at, we're starting to get the feel for, is that there's a lot of these people that have left those companies that saw what happened to their art, their babies, their stories. I couldn't imagine losing control of one of my stories. Oh my goodness, it would be heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
But you did have that happen with a lot of these stories, especially at some of these bigger companies. The good news is that a lot of those people that created those things have left and have started up massive studios with a lot of money, financial backing it. And they're saying, we're going to make things the way that we wanted to make them and the way that we always wanted to make them, which correspond, the greatest moments corresponded with, them, right before them basically selling out. And now that they know that that was a terrible idea and that they should never have done that, and that they have a lot more, growth and wisdom and development on that, I think and I believe and I hope that we're going to start seeing more of this going, like more of these brilliant companies moving forward saying, no, we're not gonna do this. We're not gonna destroy these things. We're gonna make these things better. We're gonna make these things awesome. We're gonna change the rule on this stuff, and we're not gonna hand over our stuff again, not like this. And we're gonna recreate new stories, and they're gonna be better, and they're gonna be, overall they're just gonna be better. So yeah, I hope and I think, and I'm thinking and I'm hoping that we go in that direction.
Yeah, and I think things are set up for us to likely go in that direction. And the sooner, if you guys want to get there sooner, I think the best thing that you can do is make a point to invest in games that don't come from companies like EA or Konami or Activision and stuff like that, and try to buy the games that are being produced by these companies in the next few years. I think that's a pretty good note to end the show on. Thank you guys for listening to this episode of Maximum News. It was very informative, very lively debate. Saib, do you want to tell people very quickly where they could find you online?
Find me at the Triple S League on YouTube, on Twitter, on pretty much every secondary service that you could find us on. Rumble, BitChute, all those places. Subscribestar, and Patreon. And especially on Discord, join us on our Discord. We have quite the lively community there. We do game events, and we do big group games every once in a while. We play a lot of Quiplash and other stuff together. If you want to just hang out, form a community, and have fun, come over there. Swing over there. And Max, you got to really join us for one of our Quiplash games.
Oh, dude, I'd love to. When I played that game, it's some of the hardest I've ever laughed in my life. And then you guys could just find me at all the relevant places online, just at Max Darrett. I'll put links to both my stuff and Saib stuff in the description box below. Thanks, guys. And until we do this again next week, just remind you, as per usual, stay yellow.